Buenas tardes, bienvenidos a austinlatino.com. Yo soy Jorge Iturralde. Les damos la bienvenida en una entrevista que tenemos aquí, una entrevista especial, un invitado especial, Josh Reyna, candidato para Texas House District 49, el número 49. Vamos a platicar acerca de sus prioridades con la comunidad, hablar un poco de migración, de educación y también de pues lo que él quisiera hacer cuando llegue al puesto en caso de ganar la elección. Esta entrevista la vamos a hacer en inglés porque él se siente un poquito más cómodo en inglés y para nosotros no hay ningún problema. Así es que yo creo que él entiende, pero de todos modos vamos a hacerla en inglés. Josh, welcome to austinlatino.com. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Jorge, for having me.
Well, let's start first with the question: Who is Josh Reyna? What can you tell us about you?
Sure. So I'm originally from South Texas, born and raised on the Texas-Mexico border in the Rio Grande Valley in McAllen, Texas. I came to Austin to go to college at St. Edward's University. I graduated from St. Edward's University and then went to UT Law. At that time, I was starting an internship at the Capitol, working for my hometown senator, Gina Hinojosa. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do for my career and my professional life. But when I worked in the Capitol, when I did my internship, I fell in love with the public policy. I fell in love with, how we could improve people's lives through policy and how our community and our people need fighters in the Capitol that know how to stand up for us. So for the past 16 years, I've been working at the Capitol, working, from an intern all the way up to chief of staff and general counsel, now in the Texas Senate. So I bring real world experience to this race. I've been fighting for our community, in the Latino community, for the past 16 years. And I'm ready to step up again and run for state representative to keep fighting for us in the Texas House.
If elected, what are the priority issues that you will work for our district?
Sure. So, a little bit more on my background. I'm the son of a migrant farm worker. I'm a union member myself. Because of my experience and coming from a union family and working family, I talk to a lot of folks, and a lot of people, a lot of families cannot afford to live in the city that they grew up in. They cannot afford, what groceries cost today. They cannot afford energy bills. They cannot afford housing and healthcare. So for me, fighting to lower costs for families is my number one priority. So people can continue to live and thrive in this city. And for me, that means the state paying its fair share when it comes to healthcare. That means expanding Medicaid so we can increase access to affordable healthcare, increase investments in housing so more people could achieve the American dream that's so far out of reach right now for a lot of people in Texas and Austin. So big priority for me is lowering costs, but we also need to fight for stronger paychecks. It's the same issue. Costs are high, but our paychecks have not kept up. So we need to fight for stronger paychecks, make sure that our communities have the opportunity to improve their lives and build successful careers. And we need to make sure college is within reach, college is affordable, make sure we have job training programs so people could reskill and upskill in new industries that are brand new and coming into our market and economy. So lower costs, stronger paychecks, and we have to fund our public schools. Right now in Austin, we're closing a lot of public schools, but I know you have another question.
That's what I want to ask. Yeah, that's what I want to ask you, because actually you're talking about the higher education, but yes, the beginning of the education, we're having some issues with some schools, the budget, the education vouchers, school vouchers, and what what do you think is the most important thing for in education for the basic for the starting education in our community?
Right. No, great question. And public education is the great equalizer for all families. And so we need to make sure our public education system is fully funded and is equitable. Right now, it is not. So when someone asks me what is the biggest problem with public education right now here in Austin, um, my my thought and what I truly believe is recapture is the biggest problem that is facing Austin school districts and Austin teachers, parents, and students. Recapture is when our school district is taxing us. Our tax dollars don't stay in our local schools; they go back to the state, and that's wrong. We have a need here in Austin. Our schools are operating with a budget deficit. We're having to close schools because of lack of funding and for other reasons. And school ratings, could be a lot stronger. So there's clearly a need, and it's just wrong that when we have such a strong need in our community, our tax dollars that are supposed to go to our local schools are going to the state. So a big priority for me is ending recapture, but we also have to end private school vouchers because those are public school dollars that should stay in public schools and not go to subsidize wealthier families that are sending kids to private schools. There's a lot of things we can do in public education. We need to raise the basic allotment when it comes to how much we are funding per student. The basic allotment needs to increase with inflation because costs go up every year. And so if what we're funding per student is not keeping up with inflation, and then we find ourselves in these budget deficits. We also need to change how our formula funding for schools is done. Right now, we are funding schools based on attendance. We need to fund schools based on enrollment because if a student is absent, that teacher still needs to show up for work. The janitors and the nurses still need to show up for work. So they shouldn't be penalized because a student gets sick and can't, has to stay home and can't go to school. So we need to take a step back and look at how many students are enrolled in the school and fund the school based on actual enrollment, not attendance. We need to end high stakes exams, and we need to get politics out of the classroom, and we need to raise the minimum and base teacher pay by $15,000 across the board. We need to pay teachers what they're worth. So one, they're treated as professionals, but two, they can continue to afford to live, closer to the schools that they teach in. So there's a lot of things we need to do in public education. We need to increase investments in bilingual education and make sure we're also fully funding pre-K.
And talking about the schools, and I want to jump to immigration. But first, what do you think about the? I'm going to say in English, in Spanish is los 10 mandamientos. You know what I mean, right? The 10, the religion that it was, and then it's exactly the religion that it was. It was allowed to put the posters or on the schools. What do you think about that?
Right. So our American tradition has and the Constitution and case law and Supreme Court has always enforced separation of church and state. Right now, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian, but freedom of religion is not freedom to impose one religion onto other students. And that is what the current law is trying to do. So I don't agree with that. I think we need to, I think that is part of some of the politics that Republicans care about. And we need to get those politics out of the classroom, and we need to keep separation of church and state. So all students, all teachers feel like they belong right now in classrooms and don't feel alienated or ostracized because maybe those 10 commandments don't apply to their religion. So we need to be respectful of everybody and not impose one religion onto all students and teachers.
Thank you. And and I'm going to start from the school and then move, because on the schools are lots of immigrants, lots of people that right now are afraid for everything that is happening in our country, with deportations and all the the issues that we can see on the news. In Spanish, actually, it's actually all over the place. What do you think? What are your thoughts about the deportations, immigration, and what would you do as a representative to address them?
Yeah. Yeah. So the current immigration and deportation policies of Donald Trump and Greg Abbott, in my opinion, are cruel, inhumane, and have led to racial profiling. They're tearing apart innocent families. They're targeting honest working people, and many times, and we've seen stories and reports. Sometimes they've targeted U.S. citizens, and that's
Mhm.
because these policies are racial profiling. If someone has a Hispanic surname, Latino last name, they look brown, that's enough for ICE to pull you over and maybe handcuff you, and we'll see what happens. That is not what America is about. So we need to, as a community, fight this regime of Trump and Abbott that is tearing families apart. We need to stand with our workers who are just trying to build a better life for their families, and many of them pay taxes. You know, when we look at federal immigration and deportation policies, um, there's nothing wrong when you're targeting the bad guys, the people that are violent and dangerous and or have and cartel ties. That is not what's happening right now. Right now, innocent people are being targeted. U.S. citizens are being targeted. Mixed families, mixed immigrant families are being targeted. So right now, it's cruel. I think there's certain actions that ICE has taken that I think are borderline illegal, if not just straight out illegal. I don't agree that if you're wearing a mask, that you're doing something that is legal. Why hide your identity? I don't believe in those policies. Working in the Capitol, Jorge, for the past 16 years, I've been part of the fights with the Democrats when we fought banning of sanctuary cities. When the Republicans passed the Show Me Your Papers laws, I was fighting with Democrats to stop that from becoming law. This past session, when Republicans are forcing local governments to enter into agreements with ICE, I was there working with Democrats fighting against these policies. I've fought Republican efforts to repeal the Texas Dream Act. So I've been standing and fighting for our Latino community for many years, and have a track record, and that's why I've earned the endorsement from the chairman of the Mexican American Legislative Caucus, Representative Ramon Romero. I've also earned the endorsement of the vice chair of the Senate Hispanic Caucus, Senator Cesar Blanco, because of my work and me being in the battles in the trenches with the Democrats, fighting for our community. So I'm proud to have their endorsement. I'm proud to keep fighting for our community if elected to state representative. One of the things that I will actively do is end these local agreements that local governments are entering in with ICE. Local governments are our local police departments, our local sheriff departments have no business enforcing immigration law. They have no business partnering with ICE when they're doing these raids at work sites and tearing families apart. So we need to get our local governments out of the immigration and deportation policy of Donald Trump. I also think as a state, we care a lot about our economy. We really need to take an honest look and study the economic benefits of our immigrants. They are literally building Texas. They're building our economy. They're creating jobs, and they're doing jobs that no other people will do. So we need to study those economics and have a true picture on how much immigrants contribute to our economy, because that will create a different conversation. And I think the right conversation we need to have is, how do we fix our broken immigration system? How do we provide a pathway to earn citizenship for people that have been here, that haven't caused any problems, that are doing honest work, that are paying their taxes? How do we provide a pathway for them to come out of the shadows and supercharge our economy and let them live and work in peace without this fear that Donald Trump is creating.
What generation are you? Are you second, third generation?
I am seventh
Sixth,
generation
seventh
Texan.
generation.
I was uh, from the Valley, right? The border, was further north, and it crossed us. But we've been living in, for 6, 7 generations in the Rio Grande Valley, back when it was still Mexico, and so
So
then
you're old Mexican.
old Mexican. I mean, yeah, you could say that because the border crossed us when it moved further south to the Rio Grande River. But my family has been here in Texas, Rio Grande Valley, for 6 to 7 generations.
And that's everything that you mentioned. It's Austin. I moved to Austin in 1997, and the key of the city is basically the diversity, the inclusion, and this goes to Hispanics, people from all over the world, but also for the community, the LGBTQ plus community. That is, it's very important in the community and in the city. What do you think about their interactions and their needs of the community?
Sure. I think a lot of their needs are the needs of, just everyday working families, but what we've seen with Republicans in recent years, just like what they did with the Latino community, they use them as scapegoats. They target the community, they target the Latino community, and they're targeting the LGBTQ community now. So, as a state representative that would be working for Austin, I believe we need to push back on the extremism that are scapegoating our LGBTQ community, our trans neighbors and friends and family. Everyone deserves dignity and respect. Everyone deserves the pursuit of happiness. Everyone deserves to live who they are and love who they want to love. So, as a representative, I believe in creating an inclusive government, inclusive community, inclusive economy, and that's what I'm committed to doing. In the legislature, I've worked on policies to create a comprehensive non-discrimination legislation. It's something, if I'm elected as state representative, I can continue to file and author in the Texas House, because our LGBT community is part of who we are, and it's part of our fabric. And they're our neighbors, they're our friends, they're our family members. So we need to stand up for each other. And just like us Latinos, when Republicans came for us, our LGBTQ allies were there standing with us and fighting for us, and we needed to do the same for them. And any other group that is marginalized, we need to stand together, because there's a lot of attacks right now on communities of color and marginalized communities that Republicans are disenfranchising. We saw what happened with local state governments repealing HUB and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those are all efforts to divide and distract from the issues, right? The issues are things are too expensive, our paychecks are not keeping up, and our public schools are not being properly funded. But Republicans are creating division. They're attacking our communities. And, as a representative, we have to stand and fight tooth and nail and make sure everybody has a place, everybody feels safe, and everybody's included in our community. So that's what I'm committed to doing as state representative.
All you mentioned on the last part of this question, it's they're attacking. The people is afraid. The people, I don't want to say everybody, but I know a lot of people that is afraid to do things on the legal part. So to vote to go and vote, something simple like that, some people is afraid to do that. Why should our community take the time voting for a Texas House of District representative seriously?
Sure. Voting is the most fundamental right that someone can have in civic life in our government, because it is the right that empowers all the other rights. And if you're not participating in our elections, Our opponents are taking our rights away. So you have to exercise the right to vote. You have to make sure your voice is heard. It matters. If you're not voting, and we end up with policies and politicians like Donald Trump, then it's our fault. So it is our duty to stand up for what's right, elect good representatives that are going to fight for us, but also share our values, and defend our communities. So for me, um, being a Latino in this district, I think is important. Latinos are already underrepresented in the Texas legislature. We make up 40+% of the population statewide, but we have less than, I think 22% of representation in the Texas legislature. So for us, we don't have enough voices in the legislature. So we need to make sure our Latino community shows up and votes, and we have leaders that look like us, that share our values, and we know that are going to fight with us. And so I've been doing the fight, Jorge, for 16 years. I've been fighting for voting rights for 16 years. And I've been fighting all these Republican attacks for 16 years. So I'm ready to keep fighting for us on day one. I have that experience. I have that track record, and I've proven who I am. And now I'm asking voters to support me and trust me, and let me continue to fight for them in the Texas House.
You give our audience a lot of reasons to vote for you. Do you want to close with anything you want to close?
Sure. Again, there are a lot of good Democrats in this race. There's 8 of us, and I have nothing against anybody. I think they all have great backgrounds and great experience in their past lives and their careers. But what I think really sets me apart is I have been doing the work. I have been fighting in the legislature. I'm the only candidate in this race who has been fighting Republican extremism for 16 years. So I'm ready to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. I'm ready to go toe-to-toe with Greg Abbott. I've been there in the battles, in the trenches with the Democrats. I've been there for historic filibusters. I've been there for quorum breaks when Democrats fled the state to prevent racist maps from becoming law. I've been part of 3 redistricting sessions when Republicans are trying to dilute our voice. So I've been doing the fight. I've been doing the work, Jorge, for 16 years, and I'm ready to keep fighting for our community with the support and vote of District 49.
Josh, we wish you good luck. We thank you very much for your time. Hope we can talk to you closer to the election day. And thank you very much. Thank you for being with us in Latino.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Jorge, and look forward to next time.
Muchas gracias, señores. Josh Reyna.